sure, going to be taken away, which means Baron is still available. That's been a heavy priority in this series.
Yeah, I think they may switch it up here. Instead of first picking Baron, they may pick maybe Kestrel here potentially and put that onto Truth or Delphi with because they can flex Crystal or Weapon Kestrel. So Nova may switch things, or they even take Lyra and get a healer because Grace is banned, and that makes Lyra a very good composition because if they take Lyra and Baron is open, Lyra is good into Baron. Because of the heals and the portal and bulwark that kind of disables his jump ability. So let's see what Nova decides. So I think they're going to switch it up because last time they first picked the Baron here, and I think they're going to change things up.
Well, they're going to change it up in an even bigger way.
Yeah.
Going for this Baptiste right off the bat. Again, maybe going to be a Captain Baptiste after they just pulled that out. So it's a great flex pick. You don't really know if you're Gankstars where that's going to end up. Because they just won with it. Otherwise, you'd say, okay, it's going to be the jungle. But not necessarily the case with Nova. So, Gankstars, I'm curious if they're going to go for this Baron, even though they just lost with it. I feel like it's still a pick that they can very much make work, but they're going to decide to play it safer a bit here and take the Vox.
And this is one of the first Vox picks we've seen in a few games, to be honest. It's started to take a little bit of a back seat today, which, you know, I mean, Vox is definitely a very strong pick. It's a little bit surprising that it has been less priority.
Yeah, they need to ban Baron here, yeah, because giving Baron and Baptiste over is very deadly into a Vox, so that's a very smart ban by Gankstars. So far, I like how they're drafting. They're going to ban a Black Feather, which makes sense because Xeno attack on Black Feather is good, and also it's good against a Baptiste composition usually. So now they can take the Lyra here. Lyra is going to be a really good pick because Poison Shiv, along with a healer, is very strong with Vox here. So I'm pretty sure they're going to secure Lyra, unless they want to surprise us and maybe take Samuel. But I think Lyra is going to be secured here for sure.
Yeah, I think part of it as well, there's no more bans, so Samuel's a fairly safe bet that it'll make it through the draft with the Baptiste being picked up so early on. However, Baptiste definitely could still go over towards Starboy. That's what we saw last game, so it's not a guaranteed jungle. But the Lyra does come through in the end for Gankstars, so very solid 2 picks for Gankstars so far. This definitely feels like a safer draft.
Yeah, now there's Grumpjaw open. However, if they pick Grumpjaw, Gankstars can play Rhyme into that. So that's why I like the Lyra pick here. It made a lot of sense. So Nova does have that Grumpjaw open. Baron is also open, so they could play Baron into Lyra, but that's kind of risky, honestly. And Iraqi and Gankstars know how to counter a Baron. So they may end up with maybe a Weapon Kestrel, because Weapon Kestrel can go toe-to-toe with the Vox, and it's really more of a skill matchup.
The Kestrel can, but I don't think the Baron is that much of a risk just because there is a Vox. You know it's not going to be an Idris in the lane against you. You know that you're not going to have...
I mean,
you know,
I will say Baron is
Feather.
banned, so...
Oh, he is banned,
Let's
sorry.
just move on from the
So Kestrel, there we go.
Yeah,
I was just trusting.
It's a long day.
That's all that was.
It has been a long day, but yeah, I figured since you're both analysing that, we'll move the conversation on. Kestrel is going to be the lock-in.
And then Samuel, I think, because Samuel with the Fearsome Shade them and then Sleep them, oh my god, that's a deadly composition. And Delphi is really good on Samuel, but that's going to give Grumpjaw to Gankstars. But CP Grumpjaw, like I said, is not good as you saw last game. So they're going to pick Samuel here. If Gankstars pick CP Grumpjaw, they're going to lose, and they need to pick something else that works better for them. Because again, I don't really like CP Grumpjaw because it's outscaled by both Samuel and Baptiste.
Right,
Yeah, definitely agree. I think a Glaive would actually be a really strong pick for Gankstars right here.
Or Koshka.
Glaive or Koshka. I have a tendency to lean towards the Glaive because I really like Glaive into Samuel. I feel like just being able to flat out knock him out of his Drifting Dark is a really strong tool, and also knocking someone into a Bright Bulwark is very strong as well.
Yeah, I think if they want to win draft, they can just pick Celeste here because she outranges the entire team, and if she keeps her position, she can't get ordained. But they're going to go ahead with Koshka here. So this is a little risky, but also could work as long as she wins the early game. Baptiste is going to be able to shut down her mobility, but Lyra Koshka is actually really strong in the early game, so I like the draft from Gankstars so far.
All right, well, that is going to be the drafts rounded out right now. And we're definitely starting to see this meta really be tested now. We're starting to see teams really learn how to counter some of these picks. And we're starting to see these power picks not make it through draft, not because they're banned, but because they know that their opponents are going to be able to counter them. What are our thoughts then looking at this draft? How are we feeling going into the third and final game?
I'm still feeling Gankstars on this one. I feel like they have a little bit of an edge just in the damage output that they're going to be able to do early on. As long as they can just avoid getting stuck in active camo traps and deal with the Baptiste the amount of crowd control that's going to come out from there, that's going to be their biggest difficulty, and it's going to be the key to victory for the side of Nova.
All right, Suijay?
I really like Xenotech, and I really like Xenotech on
I was going to say, I mean, yeah, he's a nice guy.
on the Koshka, but it's going to come down to can Vanes block the Fearsome Shade late game? Because if he cannot block that, they're going to be in big trouble and they're going to get aced in the late game. So I do like Gankstars' competition though, and I think Gankstars will take it.
All right, so 2 for Gankstars here on the desk. Who are you guys at home supporting? That's what we want to know. Hashtag Vainglory8 to get in touch and let us know what's going on with your Vainglory 8 experience. But with that, it's time to head on into this game. Final game of the day between Nova and Gankstars.
You know what, Suijay? I also like Xenotech. Absolutely lovely guy, great in person, great to talk to, but becomes an absolute monster when you put him on a carry hero. Let me not understate this, scoundrel. Put Xenotech on a hero he can carry, and carry he will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Xenotech has proven time and time again that he is perfectly capable of putting in huge shifts on these carry heroes in Vainglory. But they do have Starboy on Batiste, who's classically considered one of the early... So when Batiste was originally coming into the meta, he was specifically picked into Koshka. I think Gabe was the first person to pilot this in a professional match. They picked the Batiste captain, used the Ordain to shut down Koshka, who relies on her mobility to be super aggressive in the early game. So having Batiste there just past level 2 was a really good way to shut down Koshka's aggression, because she wasn't able to just get that massive movement speed and sort of run amok in the midst of these jungle fights. This is classically one of the picks that shut her down, so I'm interested to see. I think Batiste is very good against Koshka. I also think if you can get Batiste onto the Vox, great way to shut down his mobility as well. This could be a big pick for Nova.
Very interesting backs here from the side of Gankstars, wanting to keep up their shopping and try and stay ahead of the curve here. Truth also gone back, going this minion wave just going to sit tight, close to the turret. Boots also popped to get back into lane quickly. So Gankstars, you know, trying to match the tempo Nova's putting out here. Be very interested to see how much this Batiste is able to shut down the Koshka, as you mentioned, obviously at the London Unified Western Live Championship. That's where we saw it. And it was a big shutdown to Von C's Koshka of all Koshkas as well. So, you know, typically the person who is known for playing Koshka, the best in North America, shut it down with a Batiste.
Going to be putting on this Elder Trio. I don't know if that got stolen. No, Ruth did end up getting that. Going to be this weapon power Kestrel that we've seen kind of... I think we've seen this piloted quite a lot over the recent months, or over the recent weeks even. Especially that build again that's focused on the Glimmer Shot. Starboy maybe...
I think he's okay. Just should be able to walk away. Great active camo stun will ensure it. Gankstars, though, are putting on the pressure. Currently, Lone Delphi at his backs, farming it on up. And Gankstars with a very aggressive rotation to steal away a camp. Was spotted out by a scout trap, which will keep Lone Delphi safe. But you have to wonder how this Koshka pick can really shut down the Samuel. You'd think it would shut it down a great ton. Perhaps that's what Gankstars need to do earlier rather than later.
Putting pressure onto Xenotech here. I think, personally for me, you know, if you let Lone Delphi get away with the early jungle, especially versus a Koshka, he's going to be getting towards that Frostburn. That's another way to reduce mobility of Koshka. Xenotech does need to get to level 6, I think, and then you need to start to, again, like you said, we saw with Von C on Koshka, just pull that trigger when you know that there aren't reflex blocks there available to use, and then just try and capitalize off the back of that. I think that's where we should start looking to see Gankstars sort of push their advantage, because right now, Xenotech has not yet got a huge advantage from the jungle, hasn't yet turned the heat up and put pressure onto Lone Delphi on this Samuel, especially since Starboy has been there or thereabouts, ready to sort of leap on and put the pressure down with that Ordained, although they will take away the forward tree, and so finally some aggression from this duo of Vanes and Xenotech in the jungle.
Yeah, and in the lane, Truth having a pretty good time farming up at the moment. Araki Zoro is pushed under the turret, makes things slightly difficult, though seemingly capable of, you know, last hitting these creeps. There won't be too much lost for him. Gankstars very close to hitting this level 6 on Xenotech, and Truth hasn't gone back and completed a reflex block yet, so you have to wonder if he's going to be relying heavily on Starboy to stop a Yummy Captive Frenzy, or if it will be a reflex block purchased up at this shop venture now. Either way, very close to hitting Sorrow Blade, and I'm sure that's what Truth really wants to be complete. In fact, picks it up just now.
just got it now. He's going to work towards what's going to likely be a tension bow after that. I mean, there are several ways you can build Weapon Power Kestrel. You can go Sorrow Blade into a traditional Weapon Power carry build with a bit more attack speed in there, maybe a Poison Shiv or a Breaking Point, or you just go for what has been the more popular variant over the last few weeks, which has been the Tension Bow, Sorrow Blade, Tyrant's Monocle, and then either like one, or wait a second, Xenotech.
Xenotech trying to get on top of side of Nova here. Starboy goes a little bit low, but Xenotech not quite able to find enough damage yet. I think he just wants to hit level 6. A couple camps and he gets it.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a big sort of item spike and level spike for him, because he can then just sort of turn on the heat. No reflex blocks available yet for any of the Nova lineup. This is where you just need to say, okay, well, it's time for us to go. Time for us to just jump on a target and put pressure on them. Because if you let them build up their reflex blocks, if you let them have them, I mean, Lone Delphi's now got one. I don't know if he had that before, but he has picked that up. So, you know, reflex block for Truth as well. I mean, they obviously know how to play against Koshka, as Xenotech doesn't quite get the ability to put pressure on.
Oh, he gets stunned on the turret. That's him dead. That's first blood. Going over. What? And Lone Delphi able to take it. Steps into the Ordained. You get stunned. It does damage. And under a turret, you can't survive.
And he couldn't use the ultimate, because I believe if you ultimate out of the Ordained, you might just get stunned. I don't know if it counts as crossing the border, but I'm pretty sure it does. So that's a huge massive loss for Xenotech, who hasn't yet got any early jungle pressure on this Koshka, hasn't been able to snowball from that early game, hasn't put pressure on to Samuel in the enemy jungle. Lone Delphi has been farming and leveling at the same speed, you feel, as Xenotech, even though there's a very small CS difference between the two of them. And like we said, double reflex block picked up for both Truth and Delphi at this point in time. Dowsey, that's pretty huge, because suddenly Koshka's efficiency and effectiveness has dropped through the floor.
Not only that, it was Lone Delphi who picked up the kill. The person that you want to put the pressure on to the most as this Koshka just picked up a kill on top of you when you were supposed to be starting to cook up some heat. Have to wonder how this sways the sides here for Gankstars. They have to make sure that they, you know, don't find themselves tilting. And one shot's going to come out very premature, considering there was a, you know,
immense gold
a flare on top of the gold miner there. But it will be Gankstars securing themselves a 200 gold payout there, so nice little bit of gold for themselves.
I mean, they needed a small win, because so far they have taken nothing from this game. One of the outs that they do have is Iraqi Zoro getting to the late game. He is going towards... Wait a second.
Oh, that's huge damage. Xenotech once more! Almost blown up there! Starboy, if he only put down that Ordained, it could have been a kill coming through the side of Nova. This is completely the opposite of how I expected the early game to go.
Yeah, the one thing that Gankstars do have in the late game, though, is they do have a pretty good rushdown composition if you get that breaking point in Iraqi Zoro as his final weapon power item. My only qualm with going the Tension Bow is it does kind of limit the ability to stack Breaking Point as Vox, and one of the greatest strengths of Vox is his ability to stack Breaking Point and dive in with Sonic Zoom, just dealing huge amounts of damage. The Tension Bow build means that you stack slightly slower on average compared to compared to the Sorrow Blade build instead. What you would do with Tension Bow, the idea behind it is to get a huge amount of burst very early on, and then you capitalize on that. What I do like about Tension Bow, I'm going to go on the flip side here, Dowsey, is that it does work nicely with a Koshka, because you're both about burst damage. So you're going to bring the Tension Bow from Vox, who is traditionally going to scale up later, and now he's going to have the Tension Bow, which brings a bit of burst damage to Vox, who doesn't really have burst damage. Combine that with the Koshka, who's got a lot of burst damage, who I'd like to potentially see go either Broken Myth or Shattered Glass, probably Broken Myth. And then you have two squishy targets that you can focus in the form of Samuel and Kestrel. So this is somewhere where you could potentially look to exploit, having the fact that you've got a little bit of burst on your side now.
This is definitely a build that we've seen popularized over in Europe a lot, and in North America as well. They tend to like to run it on Vox, this Tension Bow, Breaking Point, Poison Shiv. Obviously a lot of attack speed. You know, the Tension Bow on your 1st and 8th auto attacks definitely does a lot of damage. Have to see though, Vane's going to be going in, taking a chunk. Ordained traps him. Nova really want to fight. They don't have energy on Truth. That could be a reason to fall back. Give him that healing. He's going to start regenning. Iraqi wants to go in Xenotech as well. That's a lot of damage onto Xenotech though, as he has to dodge back. Xenotech gets blown up by Truth, and they're looking for more. Iraqi's already in the Ordained, and double for Truth. And now they're looking for Veins. Starboy charges forward. Ordained won't be up, but he has those bad mojos, and he's going to throw it straight on top of Vanes.
Ace.
One more auto attack. It's an ace for Nova.
And I mean, Xenotech's positioning, I have no idea what he was doing there. Basically separated himself from the team by that jungle wall, and then essentially then walks back in after taking a whole host of damage. Dodges the, I think realistically what he was doing was dodging the Baptiste ultimate, but he reflex blocked anyway, so he would have dodged that first section of damage and also the section of Fear anyway, as Truth getting a lot of damage onto him. Rakizoro seems to be running in with these boots.
Yeah, Raki should be able to secure the kill. In fact, it'll be Xenotech. Truth as well should die. This overextension. Oh, Xenotech actually goes down. The gold miner gets collected by Araki Zoro. Bit of chaos there, Scoundrel, just to spice things up, of course.
Just as I was praising Nova, suddenly Gankstars come back and find their way just back into this game ever so slightly. Iraqi's going to start to push down this turret. He might have enough damage. Nova's doing a really good job of clearing these minions. The ultimate comes out and that will get the turret destroyed. Suddenly we are back to almost level gold differences between the two. Iraqi Zoro close to working towards that breaking point. I think he can finish it soon. Yeah, he can finish it now. So he's got his 3-item build now. He is going to be doing a bit more damage as these fights progress, and has that coupled burst damage of the tension bow. Another reason that we see tension bow built now, Darcy, 12% flat pierce. So 12% of your damage will be dealt as true damage despite the armor value that your opponent has.
Certainly, and you know, once you get towards those late game armor, you know, points, that's when it becomes really efficient. You know, tension bow's gone from being an early game centric item to actually being very, very functionable in the late game, and I think that surprised a lot of people as this meta's kind of shift and the buffs to these items have kind of come across. Is that tension bow certainly a very viable item as your third pickup on the offensive tree. Let's take stock. It is going to be a broken myth picked up now for Lone Delphi. Pretty huge power spike for the Samuel, as he's going to be able to start stacking up. Level 10, only a couple away from hitting his, you know, full levels as well. And although this game has been rocky for Gankstars, they have maintained a decent amount of pressure. They just need to make sure they don't fall trap to these, you know, many forms of CC. Vanes is actually going to dive on in here. The rest of the Gankstars come through. They dodge away the Fearsome Shade. They can look to fight. Xenotech looking for an angle to jump on in. Doesn't quite have it. Gankstars, happy feet, but no kills.
Something that I really like is that Truth has gone towards the breaking point Kestrel build, a little bit away from what we traditionally see in terms of the straight up Glimmer Shot build. And again, it's one of those situations where you don't want to be statically casting Glimmer Shots all the time as Kestrel in this game. You have that animation that you want to try and avoid using, because if you keep yourself in place, it's going to be basically free territory for Xenotech and Iraqi Zoro to dive on you and try and blow you up. So this is a bit more of a traditional weapon power carry build for Truth, looking to be a bit more mobile, using that breaking point to supplement the attack speed for the Kestrel. So I like this, because you don't want to stay mobile. The ability for Gankstars to close the gap is very rapid. So if you're there spamming Glimmer Shots, even if they're not hitting, it makes you prime target for a Lyra portal or for just Iraqi Zoro to jump in and start dealing damage. So very much like the adaptation here on this Kestrel build.
Certainly, and you know, Gankstars able to sneak away a Crystal Sentry there, taking the first life off the board. Currently, Nova still very confident that they can continue pushing for the win. They just need to buy some vision and some defense items, and I think they'll be alright as they spam each other some pings. Some helpful pings, of course, Scoundrel. Currently in a good spot, though. Truth almost, he's got his 3 damage items. He's building towards a 4th one now. Araki's completed his armor. They're going to try and take this gold miner, and I think they should have it, unless Vanes lands a very well-timed Imperial Sigil. Then it's going to be a lot of gold going over towards Nova.
Something else that we haven't touched on is the second item, War Treads from Starboy. He prioritized that as a matter of urgency over every other item that he could have chosen. And I think that's because they need that for the kiting potential. You want to be able to run your team away when the engage comes out, either through the portal or through this.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight breaking out. Can they get the damage? It's a question. Xenotech feared. Xenotech healed. He stays alive, dives back in, and it's going to be him just dying. But Truth gets sniped. Vanes finds the auto attack. These fights are so crazy, Scoundrel. Oh, they've got me rocking in my seat. Araki Zoro is going to be fairly healthy. Looks like Gankstars feel comfortable pushing this turret.
Yeah, they need to be a bit careful, though. Lone Delphi is a target. The mortal wounds come down. They might dive in here. Araki Zoro going in.
Very simple kill there. Araki's already need to wait for Starboy. In fact, Araki's going to be in a bit of trouble here. Dodges the root. Very nice stuff there. Clearly not living in the EU anymore, and that is going to be Gankstars walking out alive.
Starboy looks like he's not done right now. Truth can turn up with the active camo, but he is just going to start to clear those waves. And that is that dive, sort of rush down composition that Gankstars were looking to employ. And actually, I've got to be honest, these war trades made a massive difference in the ability for Nova to disengage, find range with the Kestrel, use those glimmer shots, and just try and back things up. Again, Xenotech's feeling a little bit, I would say, not want to say useless, but almost useless in these fights, because he's just being so easily kited and so easily focused that he's almost just trying to force out reflex blocks and force out a little bit of damage so that Iraqi Zoro can then follow up and get the majority of the work done.
Bit hard for Xenotech here. What's he got the aftershock, got the broken myth. So he's stacking up at least in the fights, but it's going to be Gankstars going in, and they've split Nova. This is good stuff for them. Can they get the damage? Truth in a lot of trouble, trying to blow up Xenotech. Is able to go in Viz, able to escape, gets a bit of a hill, but Xenotech dives on in, and he's going to find himself one. There it is, Xenotech starting to come online as he jumps on top of this Baptiste, and it's going to be Oblivion putting him to sleep, but it's not enough to save his comrade's life. Lone Delphi finds one in return. Gotta look for Iraqi Zoro, Broken Myth up to 9, but it's starting to drop its stacks. Never mind, he's hitting these Malice and Verdicts, and he couldn't contest a Samuel who's up to 9 stacks and has a Drifting Dark available.
You made a really good point there, Dalsy, in the middle of the fight, that a key way to put pressure on this Nova composition is if you can find a flank and you can split them up, because they have power in the ability to group and disengage as a group with those War Treads and the Baptiste Ultimate, another very important tool at pushing back the offensive wave of Gankstars. When Xenotech dives in with Veins, you just want to throw out that fearsome shade to try and buy yourself some time to reposition. But by splitting them up, they didn't have good position to do that, and Truth was so easily focused down. Xenotech actually found something useful to do in that fight because he was able to just rush down Truth even despite the active camos coming out. So I think that's another really important point. If Gankstars can do that and they can split things up, really, really useful for them. I am starting to worry about Iraqi Zoro's damage, though. It feels like it's a little bit lackluster in these fights. He needs to stack up to quite a hefty amount of breaking point stacks before he can actually get some serious damage done to the backline. And
he's all by himself here. Could get targeted. No, Ordain's coming out. They don't want to fight here, Nova. Lone Delphi just trying to get that Broken Myth stacked up here. We're at the 17-minute mark, it's Scoundrel. A fight very crucial to turning the tides of this game. Kraken goes over, turrets start falling, and it's going to be Gankstars looking for a fight onto Nova. It's going to be Lone Delphi separated, Xenotech going to rush on in, and that's going to be him dead. Xenotech able to escape, the Fountain keeps him alive. Truth trying to reposition, trying to find the glamour shots to shred through the health bars of Gankstars. Has a one-shot, won't hit it though, and now it's going to be Gankstars diving back on in. Starboy's dead, it's only Truth left standing, and Truth, very low on energy, will get himself this Treant. Going to have to make a hero play, I think. Starting to position over towards this Kraken. There's a flare, though, stopping him from going into this bush for now. Going to step into it. The Kraken, very low. Glimmer shot, might be able to tear through it. Has to be well timed. Has to be on point. Can he steal? Oh, he cannot.
Close. Oh, it felt like it was timed so perfectly as well, but I do believe Gankstars blocked the main shot, which is where the hefty damage comes from Glimmer Shot. So when you only have Glimmer Shot with weapon power, most of the damage comes in the area in the circle when you cast it. The main damage from the Crystal Power build path comes from the area that explodes behind that circle. I think the explosion hit Kraken, which isn't a massive amount of damage to have when you're a weapon power Kestrel, and that meant that it wasn't enough to secure that Kraken. But it was a good attempt.
Good attempt. Would have been a story worth telling. Unfortunately for Nova now, it is defense time. Araki, though, face tanks a one-shot, will get healed up. Not going to be too much of a problem. Look at the way Gankstars just positioned. Over towards this top side of the Kraken means that Samuel can't deal damage to them, and they easily take this turret down. Nova not really able to do anything against Gankstars. They will be able to take the Kraken down, stop it from taking any of their Vein Crystal turrets' lives, but it's going to be another Crystal Sentry taken down by Gankstars here. And Nova, they're starting to wear thin.
You know what's really interesting about Tension Bow? It's because I've been looking into this so much recently that I find it really interesting. The more armor you get, the better Tension Bow becomes because of that armor pierce. So the better item Tenchibo becomes the more armor you get. So therefore, you would make the argument that Tenchibo actually becomes better as the game goes on because people are more likely to build armor, which is kind of against what Tenchibo was there for in the first place. Got a little bit of a fight though. Maybe we can continue this later.
Lone Delphi's in a bit of trouble here. Starboy's trying to hold them up. That's a good fear. It does split up Gankstars. Now there's going to be another. It's the Echo. It's coming out. And Vanes is dead. It's going to be Nova pushing forward. Araki wants to go into the fight. Xenotech's in the middle of it. He's looking for some kills, but he gets taken down. Araki can't dance quick enough. It's going to be an ace. A clean ace from Nova. The Seesaw activated and they're on the push.
The Echo double disengage makes it so hard for Gankstars to follow up on their initial movements. Vanes jumps in, suddenly Fearsome Shade comes down. They have to reset and go from square one, but square one gets reset again with another Fearsome Shade, and suddenly Nova push very hard into this Gankstars base, get 2 turrets off the back of that fight, and now they can set up the vision for Kraken as well. Massive win for them there. And Starboy MVP. We joked about the Echo in the games previous, but Echo has worked so well here for Starboy because it was such an impactful way to disengage with that ultimate.
It was the order of the Echo, right? He built it after his War Treads. So this time, the Echo is kind of in a great position. It just felt like you needed War Treads in the previous competition, but they won it. Now Nova, they've got a chance to win this game. In fact, they've got a gold lead as well at Scoundrel. So they're in a good position here. Truth fully built up here. Lone Delphi just completing his defense items now. Nova, they have a chance. Just need to wait for that Echo to reset.
Nova have got a very hard-hitting late-game Kestrel as well. Remember, Iraqi Zoro's realistic damage in the late game kind of relies on his ability to build breaking point stacks and be super mobile, which both of these Fearsome Shades, I mean, not only does Fearsome Shade disengage a fight, it also resets Broken Myth stacks and breaking point stacks on the side of Gankstars, which are both incredibly important to how Gankstars want to win these fights. They want Iraqi Zoro to build up breaking point stacks. They want Xenotech to have high Broken Myth stacks. Fearsome Shade disengages those, and because of the changes to breaking point, the stacks drop more quickly now. So those few seconds that you get disengaged through Fearsome Shade, massive
They're going
issue.
in more again, Scoundrel. Lone Delphi, he is taking a beating, but he's able to position behind Starboy. Huge fear, huge stun! Gankstars are falling down. It's going to be a double trade, and it's going to be a Xenotech dropping. This is it. Nova are going to take it. We knew these guys were good, but they didn't have the chance to show that they were good at Scoundrel. And with a clean ace at the 22-second mark, this should be GG for Nova.
My word, mind blown. Starboy's double disengage Echo Ultimate on the Batiste, just so strong at putting pressure on a all-in engaged comp from Gankstars. They barrel in with the portal, they try to dive, nope, shut down immediately. And then when the chase begins, they keep that chase going by another Fearsome Shade coming out on top of that. That was so good. So good for Nova, the way that they were able to turn that round with that specifically. They played this so well into Gankstars, and I don't think Xenotech got enough of an early lead. I just don't think Xenotech ran away with it as he